All right, everybody. My name's Justin. I'm the Director of Training and Implementation over here at ESUB Construction Software. And today we're going to be talking about ESUB Time, our latest product release. Taking a look at the attendees, it looks like we got well over 100 people attending today. Just browsing through the names, man, I see concrete guys, I see drywallers, electricians, mechanical. Looks like we're pretty well represented coast to coast here today. Unfortunately, with so many of us in attendance, turning on your microphones is not an option. But what I want you to do before we get started, take a look at your GoToMeeting controls. In your GoToMeeting controls, we have a section for questions. As I go through today's demonstration, if you have any questions, use your GoToMeeting controls and go ahead and type those in. As we always do, we want to keep this as interactive as possible. So I'll have some poll questions coming up here shortly that I'd love to get your feedback on. So use your keyboard and your mouse to participate today. Everybody's microphones are going to stay off, but we'll go ahead and get this thing started. So our ESUB Time solution is something that clients have been asking for a long time. They want to take the punch-in, punch-out GPS capability and marry that with their project management solution to better track their labor productivity. So my first question for you guys today is, what is your biggest risk to profit on your jobs? I'm going to go ahead and throw out a poll. When you guys see that come up, if you would, jump in there and vote with your mouse. Let me know, what's your biggest risk to profit? Is it labor, material, equipment, overhead? All right, we're getting some awesome responses here. All right, it looks like about 95% of the people answered this poll, so I'll go ahead and close it up right now, and then let's share that with the rest of the team. Wow, I mean, it's a landslide. Labor, by far and away, from what you guys have told us, is your biggest risk to profit. Now, that being said, if your number one risk to profit is labor, how do we capture that labor? Well, we do it through time cards. And I wanted to know, currently today, how is everybody collecting that time card data? So I'm going to throw another poll up here real quick. Once you see that come up, let me know, how are you guys doing it currently? Are you using paper timesheets? Are we calling this information back into the office? Or do you guys already have a smartphone app that you're utilizing? All right, the last few are trickling in there. I'll go ahead and share that with the team. Again, it looks like pretty heavily towards those paper timesheets. I'm a carpenter by trade. I've been a foreman out in the field, project manager, and an estimator. So I know that struggle that comes with collecting time card data from the field, right? They're filling out paper time cards. Sometimes they may be incomplete. It's difficult to get them from the office. And then once we get them in the office, we've got questions, right? There's days missing, there's people missing, right? Did you take a break? I showed you punch in, but you never punched out. Heck, you gave me a time card, said you had 50 hours on it. You know, is that correct? Are we paying overtime on this project? And what we want to do is get a lot of those questions answered. Now, for the people who are using those paper timesheets, I wanted to throw one more poll up here, and I wanted to know, if you're still using those paper timesheets, why haven't you made a transition yet? Is it a timing thing? Hey, we're too busy. Is it a cost? Well, there's also resistance to change and technology built in. Let me know, maybe it's all of the above. All right, we got half the people voted already. If I can get the other half of you to jump in here and give us a little feedback, we'll go ahead and wrap this poll up and move on. All right, we're going to go ahead and close this up and share your results with everybody else. Looks like a pretty even split, right? A lot of people went all the above, right? Cost, resistance to change in technology, and timing. Of those subsets, timing ended up being the leader there. I'm curious, for those who answered timing, if you wouldn't mind jumping into those GoToMeeting controls and using the section for questions, let me know what goes into that timing. Is it, timing from a fiscal year, from an accounting point of view? Is it timing from, a job load? Is it just we don't have time? If you would jump in there and throw in a couple questions and give me a little more clarity on where you guys are looking for timing. I'll go ahead and hide this, and let's talk a little bit about that time card process. Well, what we find is that everybody who self-performs their work has to produce a time card. And within an organization, you're going to have multiple touches of that single time card. The employee's giving it to the foreman, or maybe the foreman's collecting it for the employee. He's then passing it over to the project manager, maybe operations or general superintendent, who's reviewing and approving that time. Finally, it gets handed off to payroll. They get one last approval process before those checks are cut. Now, we can see a very clear line and a very clear process. But what we find is that there's so much confusion around this. And in actuality, instead of this real nice circle, we get what we see here, what we call time card chaos. The accountant's calling the foreman, I'm missing time cards. Project manager's calling the foreman, hey, I don't have time for these projects. Foreman's calling the employee, trying to get the time cards. Well, we need to get signatures. Then we do all this. How the heck does all this get back to the office? Do we drive it in? Do we email it in? Do we text it in? Do we call it in? And what we want to do is try to take this time card process and streamline it as much as possible. The reason time cards and time management is so important, one, it's our #1 risk to our profit, but two, this is a struggle that happens every single week. So we asked a couple of our current clients, what sort of impact does processing time cards have to your business? We have one very large customer who estimated on their end that it's over $1 million a year problem to them. When you think about all the hours that a foreman takes out of his day when he should be help facilitating the work, collecting these time cards, on a large company, this is over $1 million problem. Now, if you're on the small to mid-sized company where you've got about 35 field workers, one of our other customers told us that, hey, you know what, it takes 6+ hours a week at $30 an hour. This is now a $10,000 a year problem. So when we're looking at pricing for a time card solution, we want to look at that return on investment. And what I could tell you at either one of these price points, there is a huge opportunity for ROI. So I want to ask you guys one last poll question here. I want to know, how long is it taking you guys to process your payroll? I'll throw this poll up here on the screen now. Currently, are you guys in that, 0 to 2, 2 to 5, 5 to 10, or 10+ hours a week processing payroll? Now, I've got a few questions or responses that came in from my previous question about the timing portion. Now, Sam says, you know what, we're so accustomed to doing things the way that we're currently doing, it's always tough to make a transition. And we'll talk about that a little bit. Brandon, he had a problem with getting people to punch in and punch out and get the signatures, and when did that happen? And then Joe, he mentioned about, the fiscal year, right? Hey, we're wrapping up the books. We don't want a new process in place, but then also job load. Now, what I'll say to some of those things is we can never be too busy to improve, because you aren't going to get less busy. It's not going to get any better. So we need to take that opportunity to try to improve as much as we can. I'll go ahead and close this poll and share it with everybody today. It looks like The majority is at 10 plus hours a week. Now, in the example before, we were estimating 6 hours a week at $30 an hour. That's a $10,000 a year problem. It sounds like for most of you, it's more than a $10,000 a year problem. We have some folks getting it done really quickly. What I've found is when we're collecting time through eSub, we're able to package that time and import it into our accounting package, which takes away a lot of that manual entry. I'll go ahead and hide this poll. And that's what we're talking about, is how labor intensive this manual entry of time is. What happens is if we're doing this in a manual process, every step along the way, there's an opportunity for operator error, right? I mean, I'm as guilty as this of any foreman out there. I have horrible handwriting. I can't imagine, somebody in accounting having to take time cards from dozens of foremen and have to just decipher what they've got there. Then take that handwritten entry and manually enter it into their accounting system. There's a danger of paying too much. There's a danger of paying too little and having to recut checks. And we all know every time you have to process that payroll, there's a fee associated with that payroll being processed. Now, because of the expansion in the adoption of technology, this solution of having a smartphone mobile app is more realistic than it ever has been. 10 years ago, 12 years ago, there was no iPhones. It's hard to believe, right? 10, 12 years ago, there were no smartphones. There certainly weren't any tablets. And, talk about a network to support this data across the cell phone network. It just didn't exist. Now, what we found is, over the last 8 to 10 years, CTIA, a wireless association, has kept track of smartphone ownership. And as you guys can see here, in 2011, a time card app, it wasn't a reality, right? Only 35% of people in America own smartphones. But you can see over the years the rapid proliferation of these smartphones. Now, the best example I can give is my father. He is the meanest, he is the oldest, he is the most seasoned carpenter that I know, contractor that I know. And he kept his same flip phone for 5 or 6 years, and he refused to get rid of that flip phone and go to a smartphone. Well, what happens? They move, they have to get a new cell phone provider. He goes, give me a flip phone. And they tell him, look, sir, we don't even sell flip phones. What do you mean? I'll give you a free smartphone. And so he went down kicking and screaming. Now, keep in mind, my dad calls the internet the interwebs. He calls his computer the Google box. He acts like he is adverse to technology. That said, I can't even tell you how many pictures I get from him of his garden or of his truck or the work he's doing on the trailer or something along those lines. And so I know from my own experience, anybody from a toddler to a grandfather or grandmother has adopted these smartphones, and this technology is now at a point where some of those reasons for not switching, being adverse to technology and being adverse to change, we need to throw those out of the window. So I've got another poll for you guys. I just want to know what percentage, roughly, of your foreman or your crew have smartphones, if you had to guess. Is it all of them? More than half? Less than half? I can't assume nobody has them, but we threw that option up there. All right, we got about 70%. If I get the last couple percent in there to answer it, I'll go ahead and close this poll up and we'll share those results. Well, here we are. half the people in attendance today said all of their foremen out in the field or their employees have these smartphones. So for over 50 people here today, that barrier is gone. 39% said more than half. I'm going to guess, that's probably close to 75%. Now, I don't know when the last time you guys went out and bought a smartphone was, but I have this horrible habit of dropping my phone in the ocean, dropping it in the river, leaving it, next to my truck and driving away from it. And I was able to pick up a smartphone for $120 on Amazon. Now, I'm not a bargain shopper. That's not even going through my cell phone company who may just provide it to you for free. But the idea is that these devices are so available and so inexpensive that even if we do need to onboard a few people, that cost savings that we talked about before in your ROI can offset that almost completely. So I'll go ahead and close up this poll. And what I wanted to do is just walk everybody through the ESUB Time app, both from the field and from the back office, and see how they interact with each other. As I go through this, if you have any questions, drop those in that GoToMeeting chat. I'm going to go ahead and throw my iPad up here on the screen. Just give me a quick second. So the ESUB Time app is like any of your other apps. It's available in the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store. Just search for ESUB. You'll see two apps. You'll see our daily report app and then our punch in, punch out ESUB Time app. When I log into the ESUB Time in, Time out app, the first thing it prompts me to do is pick a project. So what project am I working on today? Well, I'm working on the ESPN Fieldhouse. Then it prompts me for what cost code am I working on? Well, today we were doing doors. Once I pick my job and pick my cost code, I've got this giant green button telling me to punch in. So I'll go ahead and punch in. What happens is once you punch in, you could turn your phone off. You could throw your phone out the window. This timer runs in the background, whether your phone's on or off, whether you have a cell phone connection or not. And once I'm punched in, I have three different options. I could take a break for lunch. I could add comments around this time record, or I could switch cost codes. Let's first just take a look here at comments. Comments are going to work a lot like you would expect a text message to. And the idea is that the person in the back office who has a question or the person out in the field who has a question can communicate back and forth around this time record. So we'll go, will I get overtime pay? What'll happen is in the back office, we'll see the flag here shortly. They're able to reply, and I get a notice back here on my device that I've got to reply to this comment. What we're doing is we're taking all these other means of communication which get blurred through this process and centralizing that with the time card record itself. What you'll find is we're one of the only solutions out there that has this comment record tied around the payroll module. So we've done our comments, we could take our break, we could switch, or we could go ahead and punch out. Let's say I'm done with my day today and I'll go ahead and punch out. What happens is this starts building timesheets for me. I can see how many hours I worked each day, where my overtime came in. There's settings in ESUB to automatically apply overtime on a daily or weekly basis. And you'll notice that each of these records have a different status. You can see that I've signed some records. One time card is approved and ready for signature, and then this week's time is still pending because it hasn't been reviewed and approved by the back office yet. Now, this punch in, punch out feature doesn't take a lot of explanation. I wish it did. I wish I was more important, but these time clocks have been around for hundreds of years. You punch in when you show up, you punch out for lunch, and then you punch out for the end of your day. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at how this translates into the back office. If you guys add the eSub time card app to your existing account, what you'll find is the eSub core product doesn't change. You have all your great reporting on estimates versus actuals, broken down by cost code, unit production if you need that. But what you'll find that changes is when we jump back into time card management. This time card management view is going to show you all of your employees. If you come in and expand a certain record, you could see their individual punches when they punched in and when they punched out. And you'll also see some flags. You'll see flags for things like location. If the location is in red, what happens is when my user punches in or punches out, we capture their GPS location. And then based on your time settings, if they're too far away from the job site location, we flag it. So we see that one record's flagged and other employees, they're not being flagged because they were at the job site location. Also, if we scroll down this page, we'll notice here for Justin, not only is my location flagged in red, but my comments are also flagged as well. So I know that there's a new comment with these records. Let's go ahead and take a look at that location service and get a little more information there. What I can do is I could click on the individual's time record and it'll expand and show me their individual entries. If I click on location or comments or details, it'll bring me into the time record detail. Here I could change the project or cost code if that needed adjustment. I could reply to the comments. And if I come down here, I can actually view their punch in and punch out locations. So what we see is this is my project location in the middle. Now I'm going to have to zoom out a little bit to find where they were when they punched in and punched out. So you can see that the punch in and punch out happened here in Tampa, but my project was a little closer to Orlando. Because they were outside of that geofence, it's going to flag that entry. Now, our system allows you to punch in even if you're outside of that geofence. The reason being is there could be a very good reason why you are not at the job site when you punch in. You might be at the shop. You might be at the supply house. You might be, doing other runs. But this gives the back office that transparency to know that, hey, they weren't at the job site location when they punched in. Now, if that happens once or twice, we have a conversation with the employee. If this happens every day for weeks on end, they're probably getting written up and hopefully they're finding a new job. I'll take a moment here to take a peek at some questions that come in. Kyle asked about the GPS location. Absolutely. We track that GPS location. Debbie asked about cell phone usage and data usage on their cell phone. eSub captures a very small bit of information to transfer up to the web. So in general, your data usage for this app is going to be very, very minimal. These calls that we're making and this information that we're passing is far smaller than any photo or video you might be sending. Ventura asks if you can have multiple people use the same cell phone. Absolutely. Each user has a unique username and password. So in those instances where you don't have all of your guys on site with a smartphone, if your foreman has a smartphone or a tablet, he can let those people punch in as well. Juan asks if the software is available in Spanish. It's not, but the mobile app, we're just looking at the project name, the cost code, and basically one big button that says punch in and punch out. I know there are language barriers that we may run into, but I think with some coaching, it's something that could be easily overcome. I want to go ahead and roll down this page a little bit and get into the comment that I had popped in here. If I expand my record, I can see I have a few different records in here, and one of them has a comment. Comment shows here the details, and I can actually come in and answer that comment. Now, my guys for the week have been submitting their time. What I want to do at some level is I want to go ahead and approve that time. So we'll go to Utilities, Approve Time Cards. Only somebody with an approval pin will have access to approve or reject these time cards. What I'm able to do is come in and either select an individual that I want to approve their time. I could come in and select just individual time records that I want to approve. And then also over here on the left, I have the option of rejecting those time records. So we'll go ahead and approve Justin's time for the week. Now, if you've got a foreman or a project manager that's only approving time for his project, we have a couple different filters. We can see our employees, grouped by employee, or we could group by project, where we see individual projects. Also, there's built-in filtering. So if you only want to see certain projects, you have that ability, or if you just want to see certain employees, you have that ability as well. What's nice is you can save those filters, and next time you log in, it will default to your pre-described filter. Now let's go ahead and take a look here. Back on our mobile app, right? We've gone ahead and approved time for Justin. And you'll notice that once my time has been approved, it's available for me to sign, authenticating that, yes, I have submitted this time and this time is correct. So I'll go ahead and hit sign. I've got a couple options here just to confirm. I took my breaks, my timesheet was true and correct, I was not injured, things along those lines. And now that status goes back to the office that not only has this time been approved, it's now been signed and it's ready to be processed. At this point in the back office, you could export your data into a flat file and import it into your accounting package, or depending on your accounting package, ESUB has automatic integrations built in where you're able to take that time directly from ESUB and pipe it right into your accounting package. What I can say from my own experience is I've done at least 100 installs of ESUB to QuickBooks and ESUB to Sage 100 and ESUB to Sage 300, Dexter Cheney, Viewpoint, Foundation, all of these mates, Star Builder, Coins, Microsoft Dynamics, Microsoft Great Plains. And I've done this dozens and dozens of times. And what we find is that the level of accuracy is so much higher when you're doing a direct import than a manual entry, that hopefully it'll save us time on that front as well. Now, I want to take a quick look at some of ESUB's labor productivity tracking, because that's where we really set ourselves apart from a time in punch clock app that, a lot of companies out there, that's all they do is just timekeeping. Where ESUB really sets itself apart is being able to take that time management and integrate it into my project management solution. What we'll do is we'll go back to our project management side of things. And if you give me a quick second, I'll go ahead and pop into a job and pop into one of our many different labor reports. Now, one of our biggest reports that is used most often is what we call our percent of efficiency report. Now, this percent of efficiency report is going to let me break my project up into different phases or systems of the job. I'll go ahead and fire that up right now. What you're able to see here is your cost codes. And not only do you see your cost codes, you're also able to see your estimated cost in dollars, your original budgeted hours, plus any approved change orders to give me my total labor budget in hours. Now, what I'm going to be comparing is my hours budgeted versus my hours used and multiply that against my percent complete. Now, what that's going to give me is going to give me a percent of efficiency. What I hear from a lot of clients is that you guys are already doing this, but you're doing it manually on a spreadsheet. Now, with eSub, it's tied into your project management solution and your time card capture solution. And what you can clearly see is during your weekly or monthly job walks, you come in, you update this percent complete. A lot of my folks use this percent complete also for their schedule of values, right? Your foreman or project manager fills this out, then the accounting department knows how much they can bill for each one of these items. Now, when they come in and update this percent complete, which they can do from their mobile device, as those percents go up and down, it'll then reflect on your percentage of efficiency. Anything over 100% is going to be green. Anything under 100% is going to be in red. Now, this helps companies both on the project management side and on the estimating side. I can't tell you how many times I went back and forth with my estimator saying, hey, estimator, you shorted me on this. And he said, no, you're just not doing it fast enough. Now, each company has a unique labor force, and that unique labor force is going to be better at one task than another. And that might change throughout the year as you churn out and bring in new crew members. So what was true 5 years ago for your company might not be true today. And what a report like this allows you to do is have a fact-based discussion with your estimating department on, hey, what are we good at? And, you know, where do we need to pad these estimates a little bit? Now, you'll notice if you're too far ahead of schedule, that's a bad thing as well, because you might be overbidding that area. Now, we know how competitive these bids are getting, or how they always have been. But this gives you a tool to let you know where to sharpen your pencil and where you need to pad that estimate a little bit. And hopefully, these sort of metrics will give you that information that you need to win more bids. So not just helping on the operations side, but helping on that estimating side as well. Now, we can also do something similar with units, you know, having a unit-based report. I'll go ahead and pull that up for us. So if you didn't want to do it on a percent complete basis, you could do it on a unit basis. Just like we saw before, you'll have your estimated over here on the left and your actuals over here on the right. You've got your original hours and your units per hour. You can see that I should be installing over 300 units per hour, but right now we're under 20. That's going to be a nice big red flag for me. If we come down to another line item, let's say painting, I should be doing 20 square feet an hour. I'm actually doing 90 square feet an hour. So I'm way ahead of the game there. And again, what we want to do is give that information to the project managers in a timely manner. You may already be getting this, but if it's coming out of your accounting package, it could be weeks, if not a month or two behind. I would never get a final P&L report until months and months after the project was finished. Now, if we're going to make smart decisions on how to better use our labor force, we want to get this information that we have in real time. I'll go ahead and ask if there's any questions. Use those GoToMeeting controls and dive right in. And I'd be happy to answer those questions at this point if I can. Otherwise, I'm just going to go ahead and throw up our contact information. That way, if you guys need to get a hold of us, you can do that. For any of our existing clients sitting in today, please email if you have more questions or want to get your crew started on this. Email clientsuccess@esub.com. You can also give us a call at our 1-800 number. Use extension 2 for support. If you're a new client and want more information about pricing or ESUB or like a demo of the product, feel free to email info@esub.com, or again, use that 1-800 number, extension 1. Looks like we got a couple questions coming in. Christopher asks if we'll get a copy of this webinar and a place to download it. Yeah, absolutely. Anybody who's registered for this webinar will also receive a follow-up email with a copy and our contact information, Chris, so no problem on that part. Jeremy asked, where did I find my last report? I apologize, Jeremy. The percent of either one of my reports, if I go ahead and select a project first, I will find that under the reports dropdown. The first one I showed you was the percent of efficiency report. It's right there at the top. The second one with units, that's going to be my cost code or labor activity summary. And that'll be a little further down that reports page. Now, if you go into that labor activity summary and you don't see units, we can actually turn units on in your account if it's not on already. So Jeremy, if you've got another question on that, feel free to email us or give us a call. We'd be happy to run through that with you. Julie asked, what type of exporting is available with our accounting package? Julie, that's most generally done with a flat file import. That's either a text, CSV, or Excel file, and that file will contain the date, the employee number, the job number, the cost code, if needed, the phase number, and also the earn code, whether those were regular, overtime, double time hours, and then last but not least, how many hours they worked. Julie, if you want to drop in your accounting package, I could give you a little more information on that, your specific accounting package. All right, I'm looking through the questions. I don't see any more popping up. We'll go ahead and wrap this up for today. If you do have any questions that we didn't get a chance to answer, feel free to email clientsuccess@esub.com or info@esub.com as well. I really appreciate you guys taking your time to sit in on this webinar. I will give a shout out here to a couple of our clients that popped in here, from Reinhardt Railroad and from Above All. We really appreciate you guys popping in here as well. And we'll go ahead and close that up for today, guys. Thank you so much.